John Prine took guitar lessons at the Old Town School, Roger McGuinn, um, some of our historic claims to fame, but we are a concert venue where we have a music store. We are a school that teaches very young children, all the way up through adults, and we do banjos and fiddles and mandolins and the folk things, but we also do jazz guitar and flamenco dance and African drumming and so many things. So I will follow this up when I send you the recording with some info about the school and a link to access some class, peruse our class catalog and listings. And then furthermore, just like this experience with Rhett, we're doing a lot of really incredible, unique experiences with songwriters, musicians, touring artists. So I'll send you a link to our workshop page. And yes, piano lessons for 12-year, all ages. Honestly, quite honestly, we do piano for anybody that wants to learn it. Same with guitar and same with fiddle. Those three are kids all the way up through adults. And in any instrument, you can be an absolute beginner. Same with songwriting. We have songwriting classes, and you can be an absolute beginner at anything that we do at the Old Town School. So that's about the Old Town School. We're lucky to have transitioned to online, and we're lucky to have embraced this workshop format with artists such as Rhett, who I would love to introduce now. I'm very excited that he's joining us, and just super cool to be able to make this connection. I know that Rhett has played the school and has a long connection with Chicago through Bloodshot Records and playing various venues, but I know that he's very well loved at the Old Town School of Folk Music. So without further ado, I want to hand it off, and thank you for being here, Rhett.
Thank you so much for having me. Is it coming through? I don't want to get too deep. I'd hate to say the most heavy duty wisdom and have it just be lost to the ether.
You are coming through loud and clear.
Woo! I love it. All right, you guys, I am tickled to get this opportunity, and I've been preparing pretty hard. It's weird. Most of the things in my life that I do are things that I've done a lot. I mean, nobody knows what they're doing when they're parenting, so that's completely I don't count that. But when it comes to shows, I did have to relearn how to do gigs from my office here, which it's funny. For instance, one of the things I had to learn was when I'm out of focus, like I am now, I have to go into the auto settings for the camera and do the autofocus button again, and it should be in focus. Is it? Anyway, you guys, I'm really excited about this. I've got a ton of notes that I made for myself. The process of doing this has made me want to do a book, and which is crazy. I'm in the process right now of listening to the audiobook of How to Write One Song by the great Jeff Tweedy, and I would recommend that to anyone. In fact, the audiobook is really brilliant, and there's a ton of great books. This is an old favorite, Tom T. Hall, The Songwriter's Handbook. Can't recommend this one highly enough. It's funny, I don't agree with everything in here. In fact, that's one thing that I think you will find with any book that you read about probably any artistic medium that you're going to ever be interested in undertaking. But songwriting in particular, I mean, it's so much about finding something inside of you and making it come out in a way that might reach another person. So I love this Tom T. Hall book, but I disagree with him on a number of things. For instance, he says, anytime you come across a little unnecessary word, like a well or so at the beginning of a line, anytime you have a word that you can cut out, cut it out. Me, I don't agree. Sometimes I feel like the percussion of the words makes it so that, well, it might sound good to have a well in there every once in a while. So all I can give you are my own thoughts, my own little bits of wisdom that I've gleaned from doing this ridiculous thing since I was 13 years old. And I wrote my first song, which was a meditation on Charles Manson. I might get back into that in a little bit. Boy, I don't think I'm ever going to be properly in focus. I don't know if that's just a Zoom thing. Let's see. Yeah, when I was 13 years old, I started writing songs. In the intervening 37 years, I've written a lot of songs. Obviously, if you're here, you're interested in the process. And it is just that. The class is called Songwriting is Magic because it occurred to me the similarities between stage magic or close-up magic. I've got a couple of friends that do that, and what it is that we do as songwriters. Because when you do magic, and I'm talking obviously about the Houdini kind of magic rather than the Merlin kind of magic. It's tricks, it's practice. After the requisite 10,000 hours, maybe less, you master it. The great thing about songwriting is, perhaps unlike magic, the things that you come up with while learning it also have great value. I really love doing it. I know that when I was a 13-year-old kid, not much made sense in the world. And the one thing that made sense to me was being able to take this guitar that I was studying and learning, come up with a few chords. G is always a good one. By the way, this one is tuned a full step down. In a minute, I'll play one that isn't. In case you're playing along, don't get mad at me. This is an F to you. So just take a few chords. I think that was Charles Manson. Charles Willis Manson. Oh boy, look what you've done. It's terrible. We can all agree. Not a great song. But I loved it, and it scratched the itch for the moment. But then the itch came back bigger than ever. So why write a song? And now I'm biased, clearly, because I've devoted my life to this. But songs are the most useful form of art. You can't study an oil painting while you're driving down a moonlit highway. You can't read a short story while you're leaning across the console of your Ford Mustang. But you will never forget what song was playing when you had your first kiss. You know, a song is something that can happen along with your life. You don't have to stop living your life to appreciate this art form. So in that way, to me, songs are incredibly useful. And that's a word that I come back to a lot with regards to songs. I aim primarily for usefulness. For me, as a 13-year-old, it was finding a way out of the loneliness that was plaguing me. It was trying to make sense of a world that didn't want to be made sense of. And music was incredibly useful. And so as I've gone on, the songs that I love the most from my own catalog are the ones that have wound up being the most useful. Before I get too deep into it, I think I'd like to play one song for y'all. This is I think of songs as a gift that you are giving to the universe. You sit down, there is nothing. You stand up, there's a song. Maybe it's 30 minutes later. Maybe it takes you years to finish it. That's pretty normal. Some of my songs are that's the case. But a lot of times they just come to you. This one came to me. I was in London visiting my little sister who was over there going to school. I was trying to stay up late to watch a Stanley Cup playoff hockey game. I had just spent the day meeting a very sweet young British couple who had just that day gotten engaged. Their story was sweet. He had one day off of work. He'd saved up all his money. He bought an engagement ring, and he was going to give it to her on this one day. She is an actor, and she was in a terrible mood. She had just woken up from a nap. She didn't want to go on the walk that he wanted to take her on. That was the one big chance where he was going to get to propose to her. So they were telling me this story, and the whole time he was noodling on a guitar. He played guitar. And she said to him, "Oh, do play, Rhett, that's that little riff you've got." And so he played me a riff that it reminded me the first time I heard it of a riff. I knew a man, Bojangles, and he danced for me, right? The Bob Dylan song, Mr. Bojangles, which in itself is a good little lesson. If something reminds you of something, don't let that kill it. You can switch it up a little bit. Everything's been written before. If you get turned off immediately by any proximity to something that exists already, you're never going to write a song. So I was trying to stay awake. I wasn't thinking too much about it, which is something we'll get to in a little bit. And I wrote a little song. It only had 2 sections. It didn't really have a verse and a chorus. It was a song. Bob Dylan does this a lot, where the chorus is really like the last line of the verse, kind of resolves into a repeated refrain that you'll come back to at the last line of each section. So I just kind of wanted to write a sweet little song for Simon and Scarlett, whom I had met that day. She woke from a dream. Her head was on fire. Why was he so nervous? He took her to the park. She crossed her arms and lowered her eyelids. You know what? I said that? This is the chorus. Someday somebody's gonna ask you the question that you should say yes to once in your life. Maybe tonight I've got a question for you. So that's it, a little verse and a little chorus, all centered around this found riff, which, by the way, I did give Simon a portion of the publishing. You don't always have to do that. He took her by the hand. Oh, she'd had no idea. She started to cry. She said, in a good way. He took her by the hand and he walked her back home. They took the long way. Someday somebody's gonna ask you a question that you should say yes to once in your life. Maybe tonight I've got a question for you. So that's it. That's all I wrote. And that song has wound up being used in TV shows and movies. People have used it to get engaged. People have used it in their weddings. It's wound up being this incredibly useful song. And when I was writing it, I didn't think of it as being, I didn't try, which is something we'll get back to as well. So it was a found riff. I wound up in a situation where I didn't have a lot of distraction, solitude. I got to speak with Jeff Tweedy for my Wheels Off podcast last week, and he talked about solitude. Isolation is really the most important thing when it comes to creativity and songwriting, maybe especially. Another thing in that song that I think it's a good example of is a lot of time, or in that song, you see an example of a subversion of expectations, which we'll get back to this as well. But the idea is songs in a way are like mystery novels. Your listener, as you go, they're going to try and guess what you're going to say next. I do it all the time. When a new song comes on the radio, they'll say, I was walking down the road, da, 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 da. I was never doing what I'm told. That's a bad, you know, I'm always trying to predict the rhyme. Where's this guy gonna go? I know where this is headed. I see right through you. You don't want them to always be right. A lot of times the listener will be right because you want to deliver the emotional experience that they're looking for. So you can't subvert every expectation. You can't blow up every cliche, but the well-chosen subversion of cliche or the well-chosen defiance of expectation can be the moment in the song where you flip a switch and your listener is incredibly drawn in by the surprise that they feel in that moment. Also in that song, it's called Question, and it's clearly about a wedding proposal, but never in the song does it say wedding proposal, marriage. I don't think it says ring. It doesn't have the word ring in the song. So assume a level of intelligence on the part of your listener, I would say, and give them an opportunity to do some of the work. Let them figure it out as you're going. Um, and you know, more than anything else, that song has proven useful. So I described just now driving down the road, listening to the radio and trying to predict what the rhyme was going to be, where they were going to go. I do the same thing musically. Tonight I will be focused more on lyrics because I can't teach you to play guitar in 90 minutes. It's great if you do know how to play guitar, believe me. But so I'll focus more on lyrics. When you listen to music now, assuming that you are an aspirational songwriter or you have some interest in it, or maybe as Tweety suggested, you just want to write one song. Again, I can't recommend his book highly enough. It's so great. You have to listen to music as a songwriter. Listen to what they're doing. Okay, so this would be the verse section, and then this is the chorus. Now they're going to probably go back to the verse again. Okay, there we go. Now they're going to go to the chorus again. When they go to the chorus, are they going to repeat the chorus word for word that we heard the first time around, or will they do the trick where you change out some of the words and maybe you just land on the song title or whatever the big juicy moment in the chorus is? Listen to the song. As novelists will always tell you, you can't be a writer if you don't read. Well, ditto for songwriting. When you're listening to songs, it's inevitable that you'll have an emotional experience because you're a listener. That happens even when you're writing your own songs. But I would ask you to be more present when you're listening as a songwriter. Wonder what they're doing. If something really lands with you, there's a D minor chord in Bob Dylan's you know, you can turn out light, baby. No, you know, when the rooster crows at the break of dawn, look out your window and I'll be gone. That D minor chord is a musical representation of what I'm talking about. It's a surprise, and when it happens, it makes you look up. Maybe you weren't paying attention. Maybe you were doing the dishes. Now you're in. Things can happen lyrically. In the song Question that I just played for you, um, the only other time I've really taught a big class/workshop in this is when I was on Sanibel Island in Florida. I was the musician, songwriter invited to speak at a writers festival. So everyone else there was a novelist or a memoirist or a poet, and it was daunting. I loved doing it. It made me excited to come back and do this for you guys tonight. But when they were introducing me to do the performance I did there, a novelist named Ben Greenman, who was an editor at the New Yorker at the time as well, introduced me. And I didn't know this because Ben and I had become friends. But before we met, he had heard the song Question, and he described in his introduction, oh my God, I can't believe I'm telling you something nice somebody said about me. But here we are. He said that when he was listening to that song, and I got to the line about she lowered her, and then instead of saying she lowered her eyes, I said she lowered her eyelids, that it was that moment that he knew he was, and then he said nice things. So I'd never thought about that, but I could see why as a listener, he was expecting, she lowered her eyes. But I surprised him. I subverted his expectations. I went towards a cliche and then I took a turn on a diagonal right before I got there. Um, I think of when I think of the secrets of songwriting and all these component pieces that I'm already throwing at you, verse, chorus, bridge. Um, these are things that maybe, I know there's some actual songwriters, and by actual songwriters, I mean people who have gotten paid to do this or whatever, that are here tonight. And I know there are people here tonight who've never written one song and they're interested in it. Um, I would say no matter what level you're at, these are secrets, the answers to which you already know. It's like there was a murder mystery novel that I read once, and a hypnotist took the guard out of a bank vault, hypnotized him. The guard didn't realize that he'd watched the combination put into the safe over and over. He didn't know the combination, but he knew it because he'd seen it so many times. And under hypnosis, he was able to recreate the combination. They went and robbed the safe. It was great. My point is, the reason that metaphor is applicable here, you know the combination. You've been listening to music all your life. You love music. You know when the chorus is coming. You know when you've gone through two verses and two choruses and wow, where are we going now? This is the bridge, that section that only happens one time, and there's not one in every song. So these are things that you already know, and it's nice once you codify them, once you take account of them. You don't have to go to the links that some songwriters have gone to. There is a famous non-apocryphal story. In fact, I spoke with Dan Wilson, who's an incredibly famous songwriter who wrote all the hits for Adele. From Semisonic was his band. But Dan confirmed this. Not only does Rivers Cuomo from the band Weezer have a notebook wherein he's broken down systematically all of his favorite songs and all of the biggest hits that he likes and wants to emulate. He's got an entire bookcase filled with notebooks wherein he's gone song by song, part by part, line by line, breaking it down. That might be a little bit overboard. But if you think about it as you're listening to music, you will start to see patterns. And those patterns are what you're looking for, because those patterns are a map that you will use to write songs or make your own songs better. But I can't play music. Okay, well, it would be great if you could. Clearly, it's a lot easier. When I was 13 years old, I had been taking guitar lessons for 6 months. I had quit. I finally gave in and went back because I was trying to write songs without guitar, without any prowess. Not that I have much prowess now, but I was trying to write these songs with no instrument, and it's incredibly hard to do. So if there's a way that you can, even if you learn the most basic things on a guitar, okay, G. You don't even have to make the hard G. You go G, C, D. Just those three chords. All right. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. You'll either get there or you won't. If you can play an instrument, it makes it better. There's a way around that. You can do this. One string. Oh, now I'm writing a song. It goes G up to A, probably A minor. But you don't have to worry about that because you're just doing one string. All right. One of the greatest things about music is the collaboration that happens between musicians when they're sitting in a room writing or performing together, when they're helping each other out to get a gig, maybe figure out how to tour, all these things that you just don't know and you have to learn. So if there's a way, if you're a non-instrumentalist, for you to befriend, and I know now that's even harder than it would even be in the normal world, a musician, that's one way around it. There are also keyboards where you can play one key and build yourself a little, pattern of G, A, C, back to G. Okay. It does help. I would point you to the example of Bernie Taupin and Elton John. Bernie Taupin brought Elton John. Now we all know this, I guess, because of the movie Rocket Man, but I think that might have been a little bit blown out of proportion, but Bernie would bring Elton lyrics, poems, rhymed poems with strong internal meter, right? So they were singable, which is incredibly important. I intend to get to that a little bit later too, but he'd bring Elton John a full set of lyrics, and then Elton, who was a master piano player, would come up with melodies and things. So that's great if you have that as an option. If you don't, the bottom line is this: if everybody has an app on their phone called Notes, and it records you, you can sing into it. You sing along with the radio, right? So say you've got some rhymed couplets. You're like, I was walking down the street, and maybe snap to keep a beat. I was shuffling my feet. Now you're singing. That's a melody. There's an inherent chord structure that underlies that. You could go any number of routes to get that turned into a song that could be performed or recorded by other people. My point is this: the fact that you don't play an instrument is one more story you could tell yourself to talk yourself out of writing music. Please don't do it. Especially the kind of songs we're talking about, they're built on words. And if you can come up with words that sound good together, that flow well, you can make music. Lyrics are secretly poetry. I grew up writing poetry. At some point, it was explained to me by a middle linebacker that writing poetry wasn't acceptable. I figured out shortly thereafter that if you call it songwriting, boom, the whole football team comes to your show. One important point I would make to you before you go too far down the road: when you write songs, or perhaps create any sort of art, but specifically tonight, when you write songs, I beg you to come at it from a place of art versus a place of calculation. There is ideally, there's a message in your song, something you're trying to convey to the world. It's something that's coming out of your heart, and you're hoping that it will bounce around and find purchase in someone else's heart, right? If you are trying to calculate how you could make a song that's going to make you rich, I'll tell you right now, there are so many better ways to make money than being a songwriter, especially now. I mean, maybe in the 80s, there was a lottery element to, the brass ring. I'm going to get it. I'll just go write some cheesy synthesizer song and I'll get rich. That is not the case, if it ever was. Now the odds are really the odds of winning the lottery. If that's what you're trying to do, more power to you. But I promise you this: the song that is gonna connect with people, the song that will eventually succeed, and I don't mean that on a commercial level, I mean that as a piece of art in connecting you on a human level with another person, is a song that is from a place of art, a place of wanting to create something that is true, rather than a piece of contrivance, something that you're just going to make. Oh, I'm smarter than everybody. I can write a song that'll get their money out of their pocket. You know what? Maybe you can. They came up with a computer program not long ago that took all the elements of the #1 songs throughout the years, and it used those and wrote a song. Guess what? It was unlistenable. So I don't know, maybe there are people that can do that. I should have pointed out at the very beginning of all of this, there is an exception to every rule, even the rules that I'm the most adamant about. I break those rules, my own rules. I break them all the time. So I'm sure there's someone out there who is able to figure out what's going to make money and then make a song that makes money, and more power to them. All right. It's still a song, so I guess they're making the world a better place. Okay. So how do you write a song? The first question is always, so do you write the lyrics or the music first? And I don't know, man. Yes, I do. The first question for me is inspiration versus magic. When you sit down, there's nothing, right? And then 30 minutes later, you've pulled a rabbit out of a hat. Magically, you have a song. But it's not just a result of, a lightning bolt struck me and then a song poured out of me. And I guess I'm just a conduit from God. It's very much a result of focus, paying attention, being in the moment. The best songs may have been written in minutes, but the best songwriters are the ones that have put in those requisite 10,000 hours in order to gain their expertise. As I displayed earlier, my first attempts at songwriting were laughable, terrible, but I had to get past them because, it's like I used to work for a plumber. I was the assistant to the plumber, the last proper job I had. My job was to dig a hole, get the pipe, get everything out of the pipe. All right. Eventually, there's clean water. The stuff that comes out before the clean water, that's the first 100 songs you're going to write. Maybe fewer. Maybe you will be like Neil Young. Maybe at 17 years old, you'll be able to write Sugar Mountain. That would be great. As I said, there's an exception to every rule. So where does a set of lyrics begin? For instance, where does one go from the blank page to watching the words pile up on top of one another until you have a song? I have found two distinct pathways. The first one is the one that's my primary method, and this is free association. That sounds like it's everybody. Oh yeah, you use free association? Oh yeah, man, I'm a total free associator. It's not, I just called it that for the sake of trying to explain to you what it is. It's stumbling around blindly, free associating, drifting along on a stream of consciousness. Words suggest melody. That melody suggests more words. The two of those combined suggest a mood, and then maybe a story. Maybe the story is opaque. Maybe you don't really know what's happening. Maybe you get all the way to the end of the song and you still don't know what's happening. That's okay. I'll tell you this right now. A mood is way more important than a story. The Wreck of the Old 97, the song after which my band is named, it's a great song. Johnny Cash recorded an incredible version of it. Vernon Dalhart wrote it. He put it on the B-side of the Prisoners song, which was the first million-selling country single. The reason it was a B-side, and the reason it's not a more widely known song, is it's very much a story. But outside of the moment in the third verse of that song, when the narrator appeals to the listener and he says, all you ladies, you better take warning from this time on and learn. Don't ever speak harsh words to your true love and husband. He may leave you and never return. Everything leading up to that moment in the song might as well have been a newspaper story. But when that moment hits, it becomes a human moment, a human story. A person died, a life ended, a woman became a widow in that moment. And that's what you want in a song, okay? So the story's fine. The story's great. But if all you get is that moment that chokes somebody up, I'll take that over a story any day. So the way I primarily go at songwriting is I find some words. And in a minute, I'm going to look at these incredible rhymes that you guys gave me. And there's so many great couplets in rhymed pairs of words in here. Just thinking of those words, just coming up with words is in itself a joy. And if no one ever hears your song, I hope that you extract from the act of writing it the kind of joy that I've found and that my best friends who write songs have found. The act is in itself the reason for doing it. Don't make $1 million. You don't, have everyone clapping for you. But you did sit down and you spent 30 minutes, an hour, 3 years trying to put words in an order and maybe trying to figure out what melody might carry those words. The melody, by the way, is the ship that carries your words to the ears and the heart of the listener. Melody's great. Don't get me wrong. My guitar player, Ken, will tell you any day that the melody is more important than the words. But I think we can all agree that he's wrong. The words are the most important part of all because that's how we make sense of the world. Um, so in this kind of songwriting that I'm laying out for you right now, the free association style of songwriting, um, I would encourage you, don't try to dwell on the meaning. Don't worry about the story. What you're most concerned with is your mood and your momentum. As you're going, you want to lean into the mood. You want to at all costs, don't lose that momentum. Keep going. Say yes as you're going. All right. I'm going to go through in a minute a song that I wrote, an early version and a final version. That's a big thing. The early version can be rotten and the final version can still wind up being fantastic. I would recommend Leonard Cohen. There was a biography of Leonard Cohen that came out a few years ago. And in it, they describe his process of writing songs. And Leonard Cohen was the poet laureate of Canada before he ever started writing songs. Taught himself to play guitar, looked at Bob Dylan, said, I think I could do that. Don't we all? And the way he would write, Leonard Cohen would write verse after verse after verse after verse, and say he had 20 verses. He would pick the best 3, maybe the best 7. Maybe if it was an epic song, it would be the best 10. But you're going to overwrite because a lot of what you write will not make the final cut. So you're writing, you've got a melody that's like the vehicle that's moving your words along. You've got a few lyrics. Then they kind of make you laugh. They suggest a melody. Then you're kind of feeling the mood, and then you're feeling more lyrics. I know. I mean, the way I'm describing it, I'm not telling you any secrets except the secret of letting yourself, giving yourself permission to be open to whatever's popping into your brain. Even if it's stupid, maybe especially if it's stupid, because then it's not hackneyed. Those things that are safe, like love is a rose and you better not pick it. Don't get me wrong, great song or whatever. But I'm just saying now, here we are in the 2000 and whatever years we are in. If you're finding a set of lyrics and the only criteria that you're using is, oh, I don't want anybody to laugh at me. Well, I mean, you're doing it wrong. The whole point of this exercise, writing a song, is to make yourself so vulnerable that you risk being laughed at. You risk ridicule. You risk someone saying, is that song about you? Is that song how you really feel? I would recommend always hiding behind a narrator, even if I have one song where I say my own name in the song. And honestly, that song is from the perspective of a narrator. It just so happens I have the same name as my dad. I think the song's probably about my dad. You're writing along on the song, you're feeling it. The story, as opaque as it may be, is starting to gel. Now, don't bore us, get us to the chorus. It's an old Nashville/Hollywood cliche. The chorus is the thesis statement for your song. So far, you've had a lot of leeway. You're kind of meandering, right? You're building the beginning parts of a story in your verse, but you're not going to want to wait very long. Usually it's less than a minute of song time. You're going to want to hit an apex moment. And I don't mean like an apex throughout the song, like you may crescendo later in the song, but if you're here, your chorus is usually going to need to go here. I don't mean volume. I don't mean even like intensity of beat. I don't mean the meter of your song, the words. Maybe it drops to a halftime, but you need a crystallization in the chorus that lets the audience know, lets the listener know, your co-conspirator, because you're building a thing together. You're making it, you're putting in their head, they're using all of their preconceived notions to add to it. So when you get to the chorus, they're like, okay, that's what this is all about. That's the reason we're here. That's the reason we're here. Someday somebody's going to ask you a question. Okay, so that's why they're in the park. And I'm using my own song as an example because it's handy, because I own it, all right? Not because I think it's the greatest song or even the greatest example of a chorus being a crystallized moment within a song. But it is that. It does tell you, it tells, us, the audience, oh, here we go. That's why we're here. Chorus is your thesis statement. The verse is the body of your story. The bridge, after you've gone through a couple of verses and choruses, you don't always need a bridge. I can't emphasize this enough, people. My temptation is almost always to try and shoehorn a bridge in there. But if it doesn't make the song better, if it doesn't advance the mood, the narrative, your connection to your listener, kill the bridge. In fact, anything that feels overly clever or cloying, anything that feels like you're trying, kill it. Part of being an artist in general is having to kill the things you love. I wrote a bridge in a song that's on the newest Old 97s record. Oh, it was such a great bridge. It was this really like emotive thing about how people that have real jobs and they give up on their dreams, whatever. Guess what? It ruined the momentum of the song. And what I really needed there was an instrumental verse and then to repeat the chorus and then go home. Let everybody go home. You made your point. The song did its job. It connected you with me, with you. And in this kind of song, like I say, this is free association. What you're doing is you're climbing inside of the song and you're panning for gold. You're looking at the rhymed couplets. You're looking at the story, no matter how wishy-washy of a story it is. You're looking for the thing that's gonna take the song from being fine, adequate, that's gonna make it great. I had a really embarrassing moment years ago when I met Chris Christopherson, and I tried to explain to him how in his song Sunday morning sidewalk, that Sunday morning coming down was, and I tried to explain to him how in his song, his masterpiece, what moment it was in the song that made it go from being a great song to being transcendent. And I was explaining that in the chorus, when he says, there's nothing short of dying, half as lonesome as the sound. To me, when I first heard that song, I gasped because the way he took a song that felt like a hungover guy, loser, stumbling out of bed. It was kind of maybe, it fell into a lot of cliches of country music. But when he brings in the mortal stakes, there's nothing short of dying, has half as lonesome as the sound. You see the narrator, and he's placed suddenly on his mortal timeline. You see how he's lived this long life. He's accrued all these regrets, and he's looking down the timeline at a void. And so by introducing the mortal stakes to his chorus, he's taking a song that's really great and really moving, children in on a swing and the smell of someone's cooking chicken because they have a happy home and a loved one who's cooking for them. But me, I just drank a Schlitz for breakfast. It drives home the humanity of the narrator and the position he's in his life, in the bigger picture. I would recommend that when you're writing a song, let yourself roll around in it. Let yourself be its first audience. Let yourself live within the messy thing that you're creating. You're going to change a lot of these words. Maybe they're not great. Maybe you wrote some really stupid stuff. Let yourself be in it, because something weird, something that you don't expect, something that you maybe when you wrote it down, you were like, oh, this is ridiculous. But maybe that's the thing. Maybe when he was writing that song, maybe he thought, oh man, nobody wants to hear me sing about dying. But then he got there and he's like, no, that's it. You don't always know when it works, but you're looking for the way to make it transcend. We're all trying to connect. When I write songs, I'm trying to reach through your ears into your heart and just, I don't need to own it. I just need to touch it, be there, invite you into mine, connect. That's all. When I said touch it, that sounded weird. I'm not trying to touch your heart. So yeah, the best place to find that magic is on the other side of the mundane. All right. She lowered her eyelids. I didn't have to say eyelids. It's kind of gross. It's kind of an anatomical reference to this flap of skin, but she lowered her eyes is just a cliche. She lowered her eyelids is a cliche that's been tweaked. Tweak the cliches, look behind the mundane. That's usually where the magic hides. Okay. I know, boy, I feel like I could do this all night. So there's a few other things I want to get to. So the other form of songwriting in my 2 songwriting system that I've outlined for you, you've got the stream of consciousness, which I've tried to explain to you, but as I pointed out, it's amorphous. There's also the storytelling style, which I touched on with the example of the wreck of the old 97. So now instead of reverse engineering, instead of finding words that stack up on each other to create a mood and following that mood to see what characters might live in that mood, and then seeing what story emerges from that, from your stream of consciousness style, you have the storytelling style. Okay, so say it's in my heart, like The Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll. I keep going back to Bob Dylan. I mean, I guess he's a Pulitzer Prize winner, can't argue, whatever. Nobel Prize winner, Jesus. Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll. That's a story. That's a story of a guy who got worked up at his dinner table and he threw his cane and it hit one of his servants. I mean, that's probably an overly nice word for what it was, what that human being was, in the head, and killed that human being. And then the Hattie Carroll, The Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll, and then that nobleman was sentenced to, like, what, 3 months in prison, 3 days. So my point is, if what inspires you to write a song really is a story, and you're not reverse engineering using the stream of consciousness style, you're starting with a story. You're starting with a clear idea, and then you're trying to find what about that idea will connect to people. So I told you not to calculate, but there is inherent calculation in this style of songwriting. And obviously, there are places where the line gets blurred. When I wrote Question, I knew the story, but I was trying to just build up little piles of details. So this style of writing involves just as much intuition and inspiration, but you're working within tighter parameters. So when you're working with this kind of song, I would listen to more traditional folk music and just see how it works, like the earliest versions of this storytelling type of song. Shipwrecks, social injustices, train wrecks. These were the kind of things before there was 24-hour news networks or even newspapers. There was oral history, oral tradition, and a lot of it was songs. So people would sing songs to pass down the stories that would hopefully pass down the lessons contained therein to future generations. But like with the more stream of consciousness style, your building blocks are the same. You got your verse and your chorus and your bridge. Within those, you need details. You need images, specific images. I'll tell you this right now. A noun is worth 10 adjectives, maybe 100 adjectives. Nouns, like give me an ashtray filled with cigarette butts versus a sad curl of smoke or whatever. Like, that is sad. That ashtray filled with cigarette butts, you know what's happening there. Someone is thinking about regret or something. But if you tell me regretful, I'll just be like, well, thanks. You just did all the work for me. Thanks for nothing. These building blocks are the same with both styles. Point of view, who's speaking, and this doesn't have to be consistent throughout. One of my favorite tricks to do with songs is in the verses, I'm singing from the perspective of one party in the conversation, and the choruses, I go to the other. Maybe, and that can be the same for tense. You know, maybe I'm present tense in the verse, but then oh my God, why am I so sad? Oh, it's because in the chorus, we're suddenly going past tense. Who are the characters in your song? Do you know them? Do you need to know them? Do they reveal themselves to you as the details stack up, as the ashtray fills with cigarette butts? Place. I love place in a story. It can be overdone. If your whole song is about the song "The Streets of Laredo" is not a Google map. The song "The Streets of Laredo" is about a person dying on the streets of Laredo. But the fact that it takes place on the streets of Laredo informs that song and adds to the mood of that song. Miscellanea that I really want to point out when you think of the words, and we'll get into this in a second when we do our exercise here, singability and language. I've done some co-writing with people, and it's really fun. As I said, collaboration is one of the coolest things about this job. But sometimes, especially if I write with people whose main job is to write prose, I find myself having to or trying to explain to them that something that they wrote me that's entirely acceptable in written form is not singable. Big words, smart people words, proper grammar a lot of times. Give me colloquial and accessible any day over correct, all right? Language, singability. Don't worry about if it's right, all right? Okay, the word ain't. The smartest people I know sing the word ain't, because guess what? That's a real people word. That's a word that it makes you feel like you're speaking. Natural. All right, finally, on my big spiel, your instincts are everything. A good songwriter has strong instincts and trusts them. Obviously, this is true of music. What chord is next? Where does the melody go next? But if we're confining ourselves right now to the discussion of lyrics, trust your instincts. If you're asking yourself, is it weird? I had a song on my most recent solo record, and there was a lyric, the black top was so hot, it melted my flip-flop. And I was like, oh man, that is so clever. Black top, flip-flop, woo, cash my checks now. And I sang it, and every time I sang it, I thought, is that weird? Is that too much? That's my instincts. Them's my instincts. And they're telling me, yes, that's too much. All right? At least for me. For someone else, it might be perfectly acceptable. So I changed it, and I liked it. A good songwriter watches people obsessively. Moments between people are the stuff of songs. That is the grist for the mill, the tension. Just like in a novel or a short story, scene is driven by tension. Songs are scenes. They may be minute moments within scenes, but in that grain of sand is the sky, is the skyline of a city. So those moments are the stuff that we need. So, and characters, obviously. Everyone you watch, Lovers in the Park, the CEO, the housekeeper, the bookworm, the librarian behind her desk, the ticket taker on the train. Every song is built of people and the moments between them. Every song is an examination of the human condition. Every song is a study in what it means to be conscious, what it means to feel, what it means to live and eventually die. No big deal. All right. Okay, so how do you start? You guys gave me a bunch of great rhymes. I printed them out. I love trees, but every once in a while it's a lot easier to print them out. I thought that we might do a little workshop together. I know, gosh, we're already pretty deep into this. So if it's all right with you, I guess earlier we decided on some chords, right? So we said, G, A minor, C. I'm not overthinking this. And honestly, that is almost always going to help you. Don't overthink this. Right now, we're going to go G, A minor, C. I'm going to pick out a few lyrics. Let's see. I have a notebook. I love to use notebooks rather than writing on a computer. There's something tactile about it. Also, it can't get its hard drive wiped. I myself like notebooks with, this is my dog Ziggy, pictures of, things that when you pick up the notebook, it's going to have something that makes you happy. You're going to sort of automatically smile when you look at it. Okay, so you guys have given me a number of lyrics. I went through and I just really loosely grabbed a few that popped into my head.
Hey, Rhett.
Yeah.
Is your guitar in front of your mic? Something noticeably changed.
Oh. I moved back a little bit.
Maybe. Yeah, I noticed that it was. Some folks
How
have
long
said.
ago?
Just a minute ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it was very recent.
All right. How is it sounding
There,
now?
perfect. Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Look at me. I'm still not in focus though. I think that's more
Don't
about
worry about the foot. You look great. You.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
All right. So Sean Schuyler had a pair of words that I thought was a good place to start. So a lot of times I'll just have a line of lyrics that wants to get written, and pulled out of the wreckage. So Sean Schuyler gave me the rhyme wreckage and message. Pulled out of the wreckage, but I did not get the message. All right. So right away, what we're looking at is pretty juicy words. The word wreckage, that's a pretty juicy word. Okay. So obviously, guys, this is just, please don't hold my feet to the fire for this song. Pulled out of the wreckage. I still don't get, pulled out of the wreckage. I still don't get the message. So this is a moment, right? Something terrible has happened. And you see that our narrator has some self-awareness. I still don't get the message. You wonder now, are they maybe taking pride in their own pig-headedness? Okay, let's see. Sean Joyce, I'm only using rhymes given to me by people named Sean. Sean Joyce gave me the rhyme suitcase and headspace. So, okay, I know we're not focusing on music here, but it's always nice to change things up. So, pulled out of the wreckage, still don't get the message. Something in the suit. And by the way, almost every songwriter I know does the thing where they go, something in the something. And they've got voice memo after voice memo about that. How about letters in the suitcase? All right. So facts, words, tangible objects, letters in the suitcase. Ooh, who wrote the letters? Letters in the suitcase. Headspace. I can't unpack my headspace. I might just go with that as something. I don't think it makes enough sense, and maybe it's so. But I do have suitcase and can't unpack. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pulled out of the wreckage, still don't get the message. Letters in the suitcase, I can't unpack the headspace. All right. As I sang it, I realized can't unpack That's not super singable. So it already bothered me in terms of meaning. Now it's bothering me in terms of singability. Can't unpack the headspace. What if Carl Newman, AC Newman, the lead singer of the New Pornographers, told me something once that it was such a brilliant, easy, Canadian perhaps take on things. He said, you know, I really love to end lines with vowels because then you can just hold them out. I've found that vowels, even within lines, can be really useful. So instead of my problem with that line, can't unpack the headspace, has to do with hard K sounds and king, 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 that kind of sound. So I'd be like, hide it in the heads, hiding in the headspace, gliding through the headspace. Oh, what if it was you're here in my headspace? Letters in the suitcase. Oh, I must be in the headspace. Oh, problems in the headspace. Okay, I'm doing this aloud because as you write a song, all it is questions. They pop up and then you have to come up with an answer for them. Usually it involves looking up at the ceiling or squeezing your eyes shut real tight and going, what if I did this? Letters in the suitcase. Maybe I'm a head case. All right, Sean, I'm sorry that I changed headspace to head case, but it's so much more fun. Maybe I'm a head case. All right, so we've got someone in a bad situation, which is not surprising. There is a theory that every songwriter writes the same song over and over again. I've wondered that about myself. If that is the case, the protagonist in all these songs is some version of this guy. Just survived a car crash, hung up on a lover, admitting that the problem is primarily here, maybe a little bit here. Maybe I'm a head case. All right. That's a first verse. All right. It just happened. It didn't exist 5 minutes ago. So I've got a mood, right? There's a car, there's flames licking at the car. In fact, that image of flames licking is one we might want to come back to. So I'm following threads. I see there's a car. It's recently crashed. The wreckage. This guy doesn't get the message, but he's thinking about it. Letters in the suitcase. Maybe I'm a head case. So as I'm going through these rhymes you guys sent me, there's some that pop out at me as like some are words that would be hard to sing, like the rhyme enough and wrong stuff. In another context, that could be a great rhyme, but the way the meter of this song is landing, it's da 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 da. You need a strong 2-syllable rhyme. So say we're going to go for another verse right now. That verse was short and quick. Dave Sheinin gave me the rhyme. Sidewalk and small talk. So let's say stretched out on the sidewalk, which I think I might have actually used in an old song of mine, but stretched out on the sidewalk, because there you're looking at an image which sounds in a vacuum like, ah, that sounds nice. But you know that this person just flew out of a car that just crashed. So what you're doing there is you're sort of taking a bucolic sounding image stretched out on the sidewalk and you are subverting it. I've probably said the word subvert 100 times already, and I won't say it enough, because I feel like so much of what's going to make your songs go from being pedestrian to being really like transcendent is if you subvert the cliches, subvert the expectations. Stretched out on the sidewalk, Ain't no time for small talk. That sounds like I'm trying too hard. Ain't no time for small talk. Stretched out on the sidewalk. What if you just said, tired of all the small talk? Like, what is he thinking about? Like, he's literally just flew out of a burning car that's right over there, probably going to explode any second. And he's like, oh, I'm so tired of all the small talk. Stretched out on the sidewalk, tired of all the small talk. Oh my God, I love this guy. Tired of all the small talk. Okay, so I got a pair of, and it might be too clever, but I starred this set of rhymes because I liked it. Alyssa Brunet, Deep Dive and Beehive, because immediately what popped into my mind was a visual of trying to do a deep dive, tried to do a deep dive, tired of all the small talk, tried to do a deep dive. Okay, tired of the small talk. I tried to get real, right? I tried to do a deep dive, wound up in a beehive. See? You put yourself out there, you tried to get deep, tried to do a deep dive, wound up in a beehive. All right, guys, we can't avoid it any longer. Don't bore us. Get to the chorus. Now we need a chorus, all right? Flames. I've got the... Will Byington gave me a flames. I don't know if it works. He said arcade games and burning flames. First of all, burning flames, Will, don't get mad at me. Burning flames is a phrase that I probably wouldn't use because it's redundant. Like, what is a flame if not burning, right? So I would make this like mind games and weak flames, but weak flames doesn't want to be because the car's right there and it's on fire. What if you say, okay, a trick that you can always use when you're in the middle of writing a song and you're about to be able to feel what comes next, go back, play up to the moment where you are, then you're in it. When you're writing a song, you are the first audience for that song. The way you respond to it is the way eventually, ideally, your listener will respond to it. So I'm gonna hit this chorus here. I have an idea of where I think it might want to go. I'm gonna get there. Pulled out of the wreckage, I still don't get the message. I think I started. Pulled out of the wreckage. That's where we were going, low then high. I still don't get the message. Letters in a suitcase. Maybe I'm a head case. Except we're rhyming case in case. That's all right, you can do it. Stretched out on the sidewalk, tired of all the small talk. Oh, I like the internal rhyme, all and small. Tried to do a deep dive, I don't know. Wound up in a beehive, playing games, licking flames. What if that's it? What if this song is called Lickin' Flames? Playing games. Licking flames. The melody's in there somewhere. Playing games. Ooh. Licking flames. Pulled out of the wreckage. Okay, The chorus can be 4 words. I give you permission. The chorus can be 40 words. Once again, you don't need me to give you permission, but I do. That's a song. What we just wrote, that's a song. Playing games, licking flames. It's like looking for fire. I don't know. I could probably go through there and find things that make me crazy. The word licking, do a deep dive, might have a little too many D's in that line. But that's a song. Guys, we just made a song. I would want a couple more verses. I probably would want a bridge because I'm a pop songwriter at heart. That's a song. I know that we only have a certain number of minutes left, and I really want to get to questions. I wish this was longer. I'll tell you guys this. I think I've said that a lot of times. That's my verbal tick. I'll tell you guys this. I love doing this. I love thinking about songs. I love writing songs. I love the puzzle that is writing songs. And I love being able to work with you guys. I wish we were in the same room. C'est la vie. I'm probably going to do this again. And thank you so much for being a part of it. So yeah, John, why don't you do some Q&A and let me...
And we haven't even gotten there. People are so engaged in writing this song with you.
Oh yeah, should we finish the song?
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, people. So let me insert myself here for a minute. I mean, I think that you're modeling this for everyone in this workshop, but I've never seen the comments be so present. Everybody's always trying to ask that great question.
Sure.
And like totally like pushing things forward and not like totally in the moment. And everyone here has just been 100% in the moment. It's really phenomenal. Here's a question. Ryan, any tricks for how to break out of it when you find songs you're writing seem too similar musically or lyrically? Ryan, do you mean similar to each other, similar to something?
No, I think I get it. Believe me, because I've felt that before. And
Cool.
honestly, I'm seeing the scroll that people
Yeah.
are wanting to go through the process of maybe writing a little more of this song, and I'm absolutely happy to do that.
That would be very fun.
Yeah, you know what? Let's do that too. So, Ryan, look, that's a tough one because I'm now like 20 plus albums in to this thing. And yeah, I mean, it happens all the time where I'm like, oh my God, I already have a song like that. I already have a song like that. I'll tell you what I learned from a Bob Dylan, once again, interview when Bob Dylan said, man, I won't do it. I won't do an impersonation. Bob Dylan said, when I get stuck on a song, a lot of times if I'm writing on the guitar, I'll go over and I'll try writing it on the piano instead. The problem with that is that I can't play the piano. I mean, I can go over and bang on it, but I would say change it up. I've read a lot about creativity. You know what? This is insanely basic. Go for a walk. All right. Go for a walk. Stop what you're doing. Go for a walk. Your subconscious will work on the problems and find solutions while you're out taking a walk. Now, whether those solutions will address your exact concern about the similarity of the song you're working on to a song you've previously written, once again, it's about giving yourself permission. Don't beat yourself up. If you think something sounds like another song you've written, well, guess what? You're gonna have a style. We make up so many stories to keep ourselves from succeeding. And I don't mean like making money. I mean finishing the song, feeling good about the song, making a song that feels truthful, honest, and complete. We are constantly creating narratives to get in our own way. Don't do it. If you think that you are making something that sounds like something you've already made, you may be right. But so what? If every I made a record once with the producer George Draculius, and he had produced an album for a band called The Cult. The Cult was famous for having these big 3-chord power song rock songs. So the problem with the new song that they were recording that was intended to be the single on their album was it was too high for Ian Astbury to hit the notes that he was trying to hit. And so George Draculius goes, well, why don't you just, why don't you just lower the note, lower the key? Why don't you just make it like, not, instead of being in G, why don't you make it be in E? And the guitar player came over to him and he said, our fans expect G, D, and C. They don't want E. I'm like, oh my God. All right. So these are rules that you don't need. They're rules that they're putting themselves in yeah. All right. It's an angry mob. Oh, Steve Stimbridge, angry mob and heartthrob. I made a promise to my son that I wouldn't write any more songs with the word heart in them. I've already broken that promise like pretty much 100 times. Okay, so if we are, let me just say, I'll do like 10 more minutes on this song. And if you guys think of some questions, we can go a solid 15 minutes over doing Q&A.
That's great. Also, I want to throw out that I can send you the transcript of the chat.
Yeah.
And if anything really pops out, you can send me an email and I'll pass along your answer to some of these questions. But everyone else, I'll send you the transcript of the chat too, because sometimes it's just asking the question does a lot in and of itself, right? So
Sure. Okay, so oh my God, there's so many good rhymes in here. Steve Stimbridge also had mason jar and clown car, which I have an affinity for mason jars. That's a motif that runs through my songs. Though clown car, with this song, I think the car imagery is already too specific. I don't think we can go to clown car. Okay, so Jesse Opoyan, migraine and night train. Now, night train is a kind of liquor, I think. And okay, so where do we go from here is the question we ask ourselves. Boy, and I like this already so much that I'm gonna pull up my own notes and record this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pulled out of the wreckage, but I still don't get the message. Letters in a suitcase. Baby, okay, now the case rhyme is bothering me. Suitcase. Maybe this trapped here, stuck here, and maybe a headspace was the letters in a suitcase. Oh God. Letters in a suitcase. You know what? Let it be for right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pulled out of the wreckage, but I still don't get the message. Letters in a suitcase. Maybe I'm a head case. Stretched out on a sidewalk, tired of all the small talk. Tried to do a deep dive, but I wound up in a beehive. Playing games, licking flames, licking flames. All right, licking flames, licking flames. Oh my God, I love it. Okay, so I feel like what we've got is a guy who is choosing to make bad choices, choosing to do things that are self-destructive. Who is it that gave me started? Oh yeah, Andrea Franco. Once again, I'm not supposed to use the word heart, but rules meant to be broken. Started. Okay, if you sing a word and you find you're pronouncing it in a way that you would never pronounce it in real life, it's probably weird. That could be good weird, or it could also be not great. I wanted to sing started with a handshake. You never say started. Started starts off with a handshake. Let's go with that. Starts off with a handshake, winds up with a heartache. Okay, guess what? We're flirting with cliche. Starts off with a handshake, winds up in, winds up in a, starts off with a handshake, winds up in a heartache. I think that's better because it's less with, winds up in a heartache. Ooh, Jesse Opoyan, I almost want to take you up on your migraine. It's just such a juicy word. Once again, juicy words. If you could make a song that was all juicy words, it might be like cooking a dessert that was too much sugar, but there's a fine line. You want as many juicy words as you can get in there without people going, okay, we get it, you're clever. Winds up in a heartache. Okay, so I want him to say, loving you's a migraine. Can I say that? That's not very nice. And also, it seems like he's the migraine, but maybe he's not taking, you know what? Let's just say it. When you're doing improv, it's a lot like writing a song. You're creating a moment on stage with other improvisational actors. The rule of improv, as we all know, is you say yes and. If someone sets up something in the scene, you don't go, no, that's stupid. That's not right. That didn't happen. You say, yeah, and. So you're supporting, you just go with it. So if you're writing a song and you like, I'm not going to use the word heart. Oh man, you know what? The word heart feels fun to me right here. Later, maybe I'll regret it. I'll change it. Starts off with a handshake, winds up in a heartache. Love and use a migraine. You know what? Love and use a migraine. Put that on a freaking t-shirt. If you can make a song where every line could be a t-shirt or a bumper sticker, once again, maybe too much, but man, you're doing something. If every song is a memorable, juicy, read it on a coffee mug and smile lyric, I don't know, man. Take it right up to the line and then back off. Love and use a migraine. Okay, you know what? This actually reminds me of a rule. I forget what songwriter it was that taught me this. If you're using a weird word, and weird words are great. Like I said, juicy words are great. But if you're using a weird word, a lot of times you want to, of course, now that I'm saying this, I break this rule all the time. You want to save that word for the second rhyme. You don't want to use the weird word and then just sound like you're coming up with something that's just going to fit to rhyme with a weird word. You want to set it up with a normal word and then drop the weird word on them at the end. In the case of this, I'm using the weird word the first rhyme. So love and use a migraine. What was your other? Oh, night train. Night train. Love and use a migraine. Drown myself in night train is no good. All right. I can't sing about drinking night train. It's not something I've ever done. But you know what a night train is? Lonely. Love and use a migraine. Lonely as a night train. Oh my God. Once again, I may well regret this later. Love and use a migraine. Lonely as a night train. Okay. We did a double verse coming into the first chorus, but now that chorus is short and sweet. Let's just go right back to it. So after the first chorus, playing games, licking flames. I'll find the melody. Licking flames, licking flames. Starts off with a handshake, winds up in a heartache. Loving you's a migraine, you's a lonely as a night train. Playing games, look. There's going to be a fix on the chorus where the melody needs to go up, where everything else has gone down. Da na 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 na. Playing games. It just needs a different setup. Licking flames, licking flames, playing games, licking flames, licking flames. All right, so that is an example of an asymmetrical chorus structure. So everything else has been pretty even-handed. So then we get into the chorus. Playing games, licking flames, licking flames. Ba, 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 da, ba. Okay, I like it. I feel like we needed to go somewhere else musically for our chorus. It couldn't just be the A minor C. So we wound up going E minor. Playing games, licking flames. Oh, licking flames. So now, this is the point when you're writing a song with someone. Do we need a bridge? The car always explodes. For the sake of time, I don't think we can build a bridge, as it were. If we were to go to a bridge, I would probably say we need something that is counter to what we've done already, because you always want to shift, especially when it comes to a bridge. The bridge, remember, is the vacation from the rest of the song. So you've got a verse where you da 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 da, and then playing games, licking flames, and then the bridge would be, you know, I was on the mountain. Nah, that feels like a verse. But I like this song. I feel like it's tight. And if I'm writing this song for real, I would probably shine the bridge and just maybe make one more verse where we find out whether or not the car explodes. I might have to live with this song. Listen, I don't know if you guys signed a waiver on your way in, but I now own all these rhymes and I wrote this song and I'm going to take all the credit for it.
Yeah, I formatted those in a beautiful Google Doc, Rhett. So
I know. Yeah, so you get credit too. There are some really great rhymes in here.
they really are.
I hate that I could only use a few of them. I like Jesse Rawlinson's Hometown and Broke Down, Steve Shackelford, even Blunderous and Wonder If, which, by the way, that reminds me, I did a song swap with Edwin McCain, and we disagreed vehemently over the point. Someone said, what's the worst thing a songwriter can do? And he said, imperfect rhymes. Man, if you're going to say home and alone, or, you know, what was that one I just said, Blunderous and Wonder If? I disagree. You do whatever you want to do. If you think Blunderous and Wonder If rhyme, that's great. People have been dining out for years on rhyming then with rhyming rain with again. No one says again. Don't rhyme rain with again. Rhyme then with again. Come on, people. Hannah Walraven had Yellow Moon and Typhoon. Boy, I'm a sucker for a moon rhyme. Emily Schwartz with Snake Bite, Moonlight, Handbrake, Heartache. These are all very good. Obviously, the ones that I used. Tim, was it? Yeah. Tim Burlingoff, Heart Went Basement. I mean, that writes itself. And then your heart went down to the basement. Problem with that is heart went basement. You never say basement, you say basement. So for me, basement would rhyme with tastin or something like that, where it's all about syllables and stress. Where does the stress land in the word? You never want to stress a syllable that's unnatural. You never want to say, I went down to Minneapolis. No, or that's a terrible, or Minneapolis, right? Say, I'm so tired of this. I went down to Minneapolis. Bro, nobody says Minneapolis. It's Minneapolis. Ah. Anyway, these are great. I can't go through them all, but I definitely, John, if you saw some questions that people might want answered before we shut her down, I could do this forever. I love this.
I want to, you've mentioned that a couple, it reminds me of that Jason Isbell song from the Drive-By Truckers outfit, where his dad's giving him this advice. He's like, don't sing in a fake British accent.
Well, John, I hate to tell you, but I made a record when I was 16 years old, and all I listened to at the time was David Bowie and Aztec Camera. I myself sang in a fake British accent. I thought that's how you sang. Yeah.
Right. Well, seriously, I mean, and it goes the other way, right? Like when you listen to the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, like there's a reason they sing without the British accent. You've been generous with your time and your energy, and I know you got to go do something. So let's call it. There's great questions in here, and I don't want to be dismissive of them, but I just want to
Would it be okay if I just kind of scroll up through the chat and just randomly grab a few? John asks, how do you balance writing truthy things and maybe hitting too close to home with loved ones and family? That is a great question. Boy, my dad's dad had a second family that he admitted to, and I later wrote a song called Two Family Trees and never released it because it was just too close to home. It's hard, man, because you want to be truthful, and you have to be truthful if you want your stuff to be good. But also, if it's going to hurt people's feelings, if it's going to make your own life harder, you're going to have to balance that. But like with everything else, it's a balance. You're like, okay, I could do this. Is it worth it? So if to you decide that it's worth it, I would hope you wouldn't really hurt anybody's feelings. But you can't make omelets without eggs getting broken, as they say. Oakley wants to know, has being off the road and spending more time at home changed your songwriting style? One of the reasons I was nervous about tonight is because one of the side effects of the pandemic and having to pivot to an online gig life is I have not been writing songs, and it's really started. I'm so consumed with trying to figure out how to do this job and taking care of the family. I've written, I don't know, 3 songs in the last 10 months. And this is not who we are as a nation. I write songs. So yeah, it's been really weird. But honestly, as I'm talking through all this stuff with you guys, I'm just getting so excited about it. I honestly believe that I'm going to get from this experience of doing the workshop with you all tonight, I'm going to be inspired to write songs. So yeah.
That's wonderful.
Let's see. This makes me wonder about co-writing with someone. Jeff Neely. Hi, Jeff. He's making choices I wouldn't, and I would want to keep tweaking. So yes, the compromises involved in co-writing are incredibly tricky. I would recommend following Dan Wilson on Instagram. He does a lot of songwriting tips, and a lot of what he's probably the most successful co-writer working right now. He has a lot of thoughts about co-writing. I've got a Wheels Off recorded that'll drop soon next week with him. But he talks about a lot of times that exact question. If somebody's coming up with something, it's not what you would come up with, say yes, don't say no, because what are you going to convince them they're wrong? Um, or you say, or if they're alternately, if they're trying to get you to do something that seems weird, you say, um, okay, well, what if we do like this? And then you do a version of what they're saying that's a compromise, but you don't have to call it a compromise. You say, let's do what you're saying by doing this. I've in fact done that with my bandmates before. And they've done it to me before also. Like the song Misanthrope. And I definitely wanted to call it Misanthrope, and Kin, but they really wanted to call it She Hates Everybody, because ain't nobody knows what the word misanthrope means. And so we compromised and we called it what he wanted. So, all right. I know everybody probably has a gig to go to in a half an hour, just like me. Um, all right. So it looks more like everybody's in the songwriting mode. Oh, I love that. John, at some point, if we do another one of these, I think maybe we could do more of the interactive,
Yeah,
writing together kind of thing.
I completely agree. And I do want to say, after doing a few of these with some incredible musicians and artists, and being a musician myself, capture this moment, people. Like, you are inspired. Like, go, if you have to lock yourself in your bathroom, like, take this moment, right? Like, because it's a real moment that you can use for yourselves to go do something. And then, as far as continuing, Rhett, I hope we continue to do things. The Old Town School has tons of offerings for you all to learn and to exercise. And, you know, there's so many ways. I'm a resource for you. You all have my email now. So yeah, there's just onwards and upwards, and we're going to keep doing this, and it's going to be amazing. And I just really appreciate, Rhett, your energy, but also everyone else's energy that they brought tonight. It was something. It was a new peak for us, I think, at the school and in these workshops that we're doing.
Woo! Thank you
Yeah.
guys so much. Oh my God, I'm so honored. There's real musicians and stuff in here. Jamie Lynn Wilson, Kathy Valentine. Ah, you guys need to teach some classes. Sean Schuyler, you guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate. I feel honored that you guys were willing to show up here and do this with me. And man, I hope everybody here writes a song, and you'll make the world a better place. Thank you very,
Yeah.
very much.
Yes. Thank you, Rhett. Thank you all very much.